Hello out there, fellow nerd and nerdettes. It's been quite some time since you've seen my pretty face talking about that with which I love the most, comic books. So today on the first episode of Comic Talk Quick Talk, we're gonna jump right into a discussion on the direction of the DC cinematic and TV universes. So there are a few DC shows that exist out there, but we're going to really focus today on just the ones that exist in the CW verse. So Green Arrow, The Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow. But before 2012, we as DC comic fans had very limited screen time with some of the lesser known but favorite characters of some of the greatest stories that have ever been told. True, we did have Smallville, but that really wasn't ever enough. I mean, he didn't even appear as the Superman that we know until about the last 15 minutes of the last episode ever. So when we caught our first glimpse of Stephen Amell as the Green Arrow, we were hooked, or at least I was. I mean, I personally love the fact that they could keep the show grounded in reality enough to keep you coming back. In a way, Netflix's Daredevil had the same feel in its first season, but that is an entirely different story. Stephen Amell, the parkour-loving Facebook pro and God-loving crazy guy from Blue Mountain State, became our living, breathing Green Arrow and absolutely nailed it. What about that guy from Smallville, you might be asking? Yeah, well, this isn't a discussion about Smallville because technically none of that exists anymore. The slate has been completely wiped clean by DC in many different ways, some good and others extremely disappointing and bad. I mean, the Arrowverse began by building its masses in characters that hadn't hit the screen yet. No Batman or Superman, but characters like Deadshot, Deathstroke, and Ra's al Ghul, all of which are now but just memories in those of us who have actually watched the show. But I'll really get to that in just a second. Not only did this linchpin show start the television career of Arrow, but also spawned two spin-off shows, The Flash and Legends of Tomorrow. I will say this before I get into talking about The Flash. I'm not a huge fan of the Legends show, but I do enjoy getting sneak peeks and glimpses into that universe from different perspectives. Like the Old Man Arrow episode, friggin' great episode. I mean, I would watch the ever-living piss out of a show that was just based entirely on that storyline. Because Amell, he could really do that. Like he could really sell that, be the leader, the teacher, the old man. After Arrow got the ball rolling, the Flash came and carried it to the finish, much like they do in the Olympics. Developed by Andrew Kreisberg and Greg Berlanti as well as Jeff Johns, The Flash quickly gained popularity even after a bit of despair in their choice for Barry Allen, Grant Gustin. What we as an audience didn't know was that Gustin would absolutely nail it, just as Amell had before, and really create the living, breathing Barry Allen. If you thought Arrow had introduced enough characters for you to salivate over, then let me just say this right here. Gorilla Grodd, Killer Shark, Firestorm. In every episode, we are introduced to characters that we never thought we would ever see on screen and have it actually be amazing. I mean, I can pretty much just come out and say it right now. I love the DC Arrowverse. They have done it completely right on almost every level, minus the terrible flashback wigs that Amell wears. I mean, come on. Those are clearly wigs every time. So what's the problem, Nick? Well, here's the problem, and everyone's saying it. We have two very different universes playing out on two different types of screens right now. One that is incredibly dark all the way around, and one that plays as if you're reading the story straight from a comic book. And that's only the beginning of the problem. I mean, the problem really is simply division, but that just can't be spoken enough. I mean, DC, listen closely. We have amazing talent on the silver screen, playing characters that are difficult to nail down cinematically. A guy that shoots arrows and a guy that can run really, really fast and sometimes travels through time, that's hard to sell to people, even in a world where comic book characters dominate the media. I mean, look at Hawkeye. You already have a massive market just waiting and demanding you to bring these characters into the establishing DC cinematic universe. They've already put tons of work and dedication into these characters, and they'd be able to deliver that and so much more to these characters on the big screen. Because you stifle the creativity on these shows by denying them use of certain characters, you are killing them slowly. Take Arrow, for example. The Deathstroke season was one of the best seasons yet. And it ultimately worked because where Deathstroke exists, so too could Batman and Nightwing or even Superman. But because they're no longer able to use that character among others, you can never have those conflicts again and really never feel that connection or hope for what could be. Now what are we left with? The unwanted characters that DC knows are hard to sell, that are difficult. Tell me, does that make any sense? It would make much more sense to have the Arrowverse play out much in the same way that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. does. It's a companion that keeps you informed on what's happening in that universe. Every time you see an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., somewhere at that very moment, Tony Stark and the Avengers exist and are doing something potentially important to the narrative in that universe. Without that, you would be watching a show that literally has no impact on what happens as a whole. And I don't even need to create an example because that's exactly what we're seeing with the Arrowverse. Complete division and loss of cohesion. The only things that completely work together are Arrow, The Flash, and sometimes Legends of Tomorrow. They kind of go off on tangents. And that's not enough. Basically, you'll never see Grant Gustin as The Flash or Stephen Amell as the Green Arrow in the DC cinematic universe. It's been said many times by various producers and execs in many different forms. For what reason? They've stated that the Arrowverse is too bright and comedic, and that is not something that has a place in their cinematic universe. Does that make sense? Doesn't make sense, no. Does it make me super upset? Indeed. Just indeed. That's gonna be it for me today, guys. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to hit the like button down there. If you want to read up a little bit more on your favorite comic character, head on over to your local Comic Depot and pick up the essentials. Or download any of the comic apps for your device and get your collection started. Also, want to share your collection? Hit us up on Facebook or Instagram with the tag #ComicTalkCollector, and you may be featured in the next episode. It could be a video or just a picture. Just don't forget the tag. Don't forget to dive into your imagination a little bit. Read a comic book and get out and help support your local comic stores. Till next time, Nerdites, keep your utility belt handy.